Hello ladies and gentlemen, Panzer here, and so October has finally come to an end, and the biggest AAA FPS games of the year are all out. And so with that, we now have Battlefield 1, Titanfall 2, followed by Call of Duty Infinite Warfare. But I'm not going to be talking about Battlefield in this video, since anyone who has played it can definitely agree that the gameplay of Battlefield is the furthest away from the other two. It focuses on a larger scope and combined arms battle with tanks, aircraft and so on. But what about the other two? Now we know that Titanfall is made by Respawn, a team that was originally formed from ex-Call of Duty developers, and the pedigree certainly shows from the way the games appear to certain UI elements, and even the gun handling characteristics could be considered similar at first glance. And sticking with purely first impressions, they might seem to be cast from the same mold, since they're essentially shooters with parkour elements. But while Titanfall began with parkour as a core element, this movement system is relatively new to the Call of Duty franchise and has been controversial since its inclusion. Attempts at revolutionizing the old COD movement system began pretty much with Advanced Warfare's boost system, allowing players to boost, dodge and slide, but then Black Ops 3 came around and added wall running into the mix. But with these changes, could the games really be considered that similar? Well, let's take a closer look. Beginning with Titanfall 2, we can see how momentum plays a big part in the movement system. The player is first introduced to the concept in the tutorial area with the training course and leaderboard. By utilizing the optimum amount of wall running, precisely timed jumps and slides, players can keep their speed up as high as possible in order to make that record time. In Infinite Warfare, the opening sequence teaches the player about the movement system, but while you can wall run, boost jump and slide just like you do in Titanfall, the system lacks momentum. With the only real loss of speed coming from sliding, the momentum simply isn't there. And when you transfer that to multiplayer, wall running seems to give the player a faster movement speed, but unlike in Titanfall, you simply do not lose speed as significantly when wall running. In addition, friction from sliding doesn't appear to be as noticeable as it is in Titanfall 2. Where the games really differ is in the map design. Sure, Titanfall 2 has Titans and Infinite Warfare doesn't, but even without that, there are still significant differences. Compared to Titanfall 2 and even the last Call of Duty title, Black Ops 3, the maps in Infinite Warfare feel more claustrophobic. They still have the familiar multi-lane design that we've seen since Modern Warfare 2, and while this suits the close-quarter gameplay of Call of Duty, it also seems like the areas on the map that are conducive to parkour movements are more of an afterthought and not essential. In particular, some of the maps feature specific wall running only sections, and while these may initially appear to be a shortcut around the map, they actually turn out to just be alternate routes, useful for flanking but not necessarily required. In contrast, Black Ops 3 featured multiple sections that were not only useful for wall running, but also allowed players more freedom of movement around the map. Maps were generally larger and with more open areas that offered greater range, as well as necessitating fast and agile movement in order to not get caught out. Titanfall 2, however, features much larger and expansive maps with multiple areas of wide open space, as well as close quarters indoor areas. Of course, this is so that Titans have areas to move around in, but it also forces players to make use of the parkour system to traverse the map quickly. It can take precious seconds to sprint across an area in the conventional way, but skilled parkour can actually allow a player to cross the map in seconds, as well as making them a much harder target. The main difference here being the necessity of the parkour system to facilitate gameplay, versus having it as an optional feature. And while it is certainly possible to make use of the parkour movements in Infinite Warfare, it never feels like it's as important. The gunplay in both games also varies dramatically. Infinite Warfare has its usual array of assault rifles, LMGs, SMGs, shotguns and snipers, and they all vary greatly in their playstyle. Some are more conducive for hipfire in close quarters, while others reward quick-thinking ADS shots. In Titanfall 2, the weapons are split into anti-human and anti-Titan weapons, and while all weapons are capable of damaging both with varying degrees of effectiveness, the loadouts each player takes into a match must be versatile enough to work in both situations. For the most part, guns in Titanfall 2 have a much smaller spread than those in Infinite Warfare, and are generally better suited for hipfire use, with a select few benefiting from aiming down the sights. Like previous Call of Duty games, weapons in Infinite Warfare generally seem to benefit more significantly from aiming down sights, while in Titanfall 2 it's almost an optional extra. After all, if anything's too far away to hipfire at accurately, the player can simply free run and close the distance until it is, and that can all happen in the matter of seconds. Overall, putting the two side by side shows a clear difference in design principles. Infinite Warfare still plays very similarly to its predecessors, and while its movement system carries the same elements as Black Ops 3, it's more of an optional feature than it was even in that game. In addition, it also seems like it's trying to reconcile the direction Call of Duty has been going in with its last few titles, and with what the player base seems to want. After all, the demand for a classic mode without boosters and wall running, as well as for the old ways of COD to come back, has been at an all-time high. In contrast, Titanfall 2 carries on with the direction set by its predecessor, and emphasised momentum and precise timing in its movement system, and indeed emphasising the necessity of its movement system as a core part of the gameplay. Personally, I prefer the way Titanfall 2 plays, being able to pick your fights, be it close quarters or at range, and being rewarded subtly for pulling off slick and precise parkour movements is overall far more rewarding for me personally than being quicker on the trigger. While the smart pistol from the first game is pretty much gone, after all it doesn't really function in the same way as it used to, there are far more weapons that are rewarding to use even without precise aiming. And of course there's the pilot and Titan dynamic. The Titan is as much a core part of the pilot's loadout as their primary weapon, and each one has their own unique playstyle. But let me know what you guys think. Do you prefer Infinite Warfare or Titanfall? And if you could change one thing about either game, what would it be and why? I know I haven't really touched on the single player aspect of either game in this video, and I feel that that could be a separate video on its own, but if you want to see that, let me know down in the comments below, and of course, comment with your thoughts and answers to the questions below as well, and don't forget to leave a like if you've enjoyed the video, and subscribe if you're new to the channel. My name is Panzer, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.